Teen shot by her ex-boyfriend, 3 times in the head, a shocking murder. Growing up in a nurturing, supportive family, striving to fulfill her dreams, and serving as an inspiration to those around her is something many young girls hope for. Ashley Doolittle was no exception. Born on May 20th, 1998, in the charming town of Louisville, Colorado, Ashley was a lively, vibrant young girl who discovered her love for horses at the tender age of 5. From the moment she first sat on a pony, there was no turning back. Horses were her passion, her escape, and her purpose. Her deep connection to horseback riding soon led her to the thrilling world of rodeo competitions. By 18, she had already achieved a remarkable milestone, being crowned Lady in Waiting, a coveted title that positioned her just one step away from becoming a rodeo queen, a dream she was working tirelessly toward. Alongside her aspirations in rodeo, she was preparing for a bright college future filled with potential. However, the seemingly perfect life she had built was about to unravel in ways no one could have ever foreseen. On the evening of June 9th, 2016, an ordinary day for the 18-year-old Ashley took an unimaginable turn. What started as a simple plan to meet her ex-boyfriend, Tanner Flores, at the scenic Lawnhaggler Reservoir to talk over their troubled relationship turned into a nightmare. With hope in her heart and trust in her nature, Ashley entered Tanner's truck, unaware of the impending horror that would follow. What should have been a difficult but peaceful conversation escalated into a tragedy that would send shockwaves through her community and beyond. What no one anticipated was that this young girl, known for her kindness, ambition, and vibrant spirit, would fall victim to a heinous act of violence that would not only devastate her family, but also destroy the lives of those around her, including the family of Tanner Flores. Ashley had always been more than just another teenage girl. From the day she was born to her loving parents, Marie and Jeff Doolittle, she exuded an undeniable charisma that drew people in. Growing up with 2 brothers, Brandon and Michael, she was a girl who always felt the love and support of her family, who encouraged her every step of the way to chase her dreams. Her passion for horses was clear from an early age. At just 5, Ashley was gifted her first pony, an experience that sparked a lifelong bond with animals and the open fields where she trained. Her dedication to riding and the rodeo scene quickly became an integral part of her identity. It was more than just a hobby, it was a way for her to connect, to belong, and to inspire others. Her rodeo journey wasn't just about personal achievements, it was about building a sense of community and spreading her love for the sport to anyone she could. Ashley's love for horses gave her purpose and direction early in life. By the age of 8, she was already participating in horse shows, and it was then that she truly fell in love with the rodeo lifestyle. Immersed in the world of rodeo, she began dedicating countless hours to the sport, achieving remarkable milestones as she grew older. Her dedication didn't go unnoticed, and in 2016, at just 18 years old, Ashley was awarded the prestigious title of Lady in Waiting. This title was not merely a recognition of her skills, but a mark of her character, commitment, and embodiment of the rodeo spirit. In the rodeo world, the Lady in Waiting works closely with the reigning rodeo queen, taking on a variety of important responsibilities. These included organizing fundraisers, managing relationships with sponsors, representing the rodeo at community events, and honing her public speaking abilities. The role prepared her for the ultimate honor of becoming a rodeo queen herself, a title she was on track to achieve the following. Being named Lady in Waiting was a tremendous honor for Ashley. She quickly became a well-known figure in the rodeo circuit, admired not only for her riding skills, but also for her leadership and dedication. She was an inspiration to many young girls who looked up to her as a role model, dreaming of following in her footsteps. Some girls would even approach her for autographs, seeing her as someone who represented their own aspirations. Ashley's caring nature shone brightly in these moments. She wasn't the type to simply sign her name and move on. She took the time to write personal notes of encouragement to each young fan, urging them to keep chasing their dreams. Her kindness and humility left a lasting impression on those who met her. Beyond her involvement in rodeo, Ashley was deeply engaged in her local community through the Boulder County 4-Horse program, which encouraged children to embrace horseback riding. She was an active competitor in horse judging competitions and hippology teams, showcasing her diverse equestrian knowledge. Her accolades were impressive, including being named the champion high individual at the National 4-H Western Roundup. However, Ashley's ambitions extended far beyond her love for horses. She was also a founding member and twice served as vice president of the Thompson Valley FFA. a chapter of the national organization known as the Future Farmers of America, FFA. The FFA plays a pivotal role in promoting leadership and agricultural education for students, and Ashley's involvement highlighted her commitment to making a broader impact. Her dedication to FFA was so strong that she planned to continue her involvement at the state level when she entered college. In May of 2016, Ashley proudly graduated from Berthoud High School, and she had her eyes set on an exciting future. With plans to attend Colorado State University, she looked forward to continuing her passion for rodeo and agriculture, ready to take on the world with the same determination she had shown throughout her life. Ashley had planned to attend Colorado State University, where she intended to major in agricultural business, a field that combined her passion for agriculture with her desire to build a meaningful career. She was ready to embrace the next chapter of her life, but tragically, she never got the chance. Her bright future was cut short by the very person who claimed to love her, Tanner Flores. If he couldn't have her, he decided that no one else would either, a dark obsession that ultimately led to a senseless tragedy. Ashley and Tanner had first crossed paths during their high school years. On the surface, their relationship seemed typical, like any other teenage romance. But beneath the surface, cracks had begun to show early on. Tanner had a possessive streak, and his behavior toward Ashley became increasingly controlling. He imposed limits on what she could or couldn't do and often tried to isolate her from social events. Even though Ashley wasn't someone who frequented parties, Tanner forbade her from attending any gatherings when she started college, a clear sign of his jealousy and insecurity. Was it her growing success that made Tanner feel inadequate? Or was he simply afraid that Ashley might outgrow him and move on to a life where he no longer fit in? Whatever the reasons, his insecurities manifested in ways that made Ashley feel trapped. After a year of emotional strain, she made the difficult decision to end the relationship, recognizing that Tanner was not the right person for her. But for Tanner, letting go of Ashley was something he couldn't accept. On June 4th, 2016, Tanner asked Ashley to join him on a hike in Estes Park, hoping they could talk things over. In his mind, it was an opportunity to rekindle the relationship. However, Ashley was clear that their breakup was final, though Tanner seemed to misinterpret the encounter. Despite her words, he walked away from the day believing that everything had gone well and that they were back together. His refusal to accept the reality of the situation continued to show in the days that followed. On June 5th, Ashley went out with friends to the Sundance Steakhouse and Saloon, a place they enjoyed spending time. Tanner, however, wasn't ready to move on. He showed up uninvited, and things took an unsettling turn. Witnesses recall seeing Tanner approach Ashley, grabbing her arm and spinning her toward him in an attempt to get her attention. Clearly uncomfortable, Ashley wanted nothing more to do with him and left the venue to avoid further confrontation. But Tanner was persistent. Just a day later, on June 6th, he convinced Ashley to meet him one last time at the Lon Hagler Reservoir, supposedly to have a final discussion about their relationship. Ashley, perhaps wanting to clear the air, agreed. Unfortunately, Tanner's delusion that they could reconcile persisted. By the end of their conversation, he somehow convinced himself once again that they were back together. Despite Ashley's firm stance that they weren't, this would be the last encounter in what had already been a toxic relationship, one that Ashley had desperately tried to walk away from, but Tanner couldn't let go. The following day, Ashley returned to the Sundance Steakhouse and Saloon, hoping for a carefree evening with friends. Before heading out, she made a point to contact Tanner, asking him not to show up. She had no interest in seeing him again. Tanner, however, was not ready to let go. He concocted a story, texting Ashley that he had locked his keys inside his truck and needed her help. But Ashley, having grown tired of his constant manipulation, chose to ignore his message. A few days later, on June 8th, Ashley reluctantly agreed to meet Tanner again to help him sell some scrap metal. Little did she know, this decision would set in motion a chain of events that would change everything. While they were together that day, Tanner invaded Ashley's privacy by going through her phone. When he discovered she had been texting two other guys, he immediately jumped to the conclusion that she was romantically involved with them. Tanner, still delusional about their relationship status, accused Ashley of being unfaithful even though they had already broken up. Enraged and feeling betrayed, Tanner's anger boiled over. That night, he contacted the two guys Ashley had been texting, stirring up unnecessary conflict and making Ashley furious. Tensions between them escalated, and in his frustration, Tanner sent her a bitter message that revealed his emotional turmoil. "I hope you realize what you threw away. I gave you everything, and I spent so much money on you. You were too busy trying to mess around with Tori and Jared behind my back. You were never loyal. I'm going to do something stupid now. Bye." Ashley, though upset by his accusations, tried to defend herself. Even at this point, she still harbored hope that they could at least remain friends despite the growing tension. However, Tanner's behavior had pushed things beyond repair. On June 9th, Tanner messaged Ashley again, asking if they could meet up one last time to talk. Ashley, who had been in Denver earlier that day, initially hesitated, but eventually agreed. Throughout the day, Tanner had been texting her, making his desperation clear, even telling her that he missed her. But Ashley had reached her breaking point and responded curtly with a simple stop. She wasn't interested in engaging further, but her kind nature compelled her to keep her word, agreeing to meet him later in the afternoon, even though she was emotionally exhausted. While Ashley was in Denver, Tanner borrowed his father's pistol and drove to Carter Lake, where he spent time shooting, claiming it helped him relax. His mind was clearly in turmoil, but he didn't stop there. After his target practice, he continued to text Ashley throughout the day, his words tinged with both longing and frustration. Later that afternoon, as promised, Ashley met up with Tanner at Lon Hagler Reservoir. She got into his truck, perhaps hoping this final conversation would bring closure. Instead, it marked the beginning of a terrifying sequence of events that no one could have anticipated. Little did Ashley know, stepping into that truck would be the last thing she ever did. By 7:30 p.m. that evening, her parents, Jeff and Marie, began to grow anxious. It wasn't like Ashley to miss her curfew without a word, and when she still hadn't returned home, they decided to go out and search for her. Half an hour later, around 8 p.m., they found her car parked in one of the lots near the Lon Hagler Reservoir, where she had gone to meet Tanner. Sight of her car sitting there without any sign of her set off alarm bells. They knew something was wrong. Ashley would have contacted them if she planned to stay out late. Fearing the worst, Jeff and Marie immediately contacted the sheriff's office and reported Ashley missing. Local authorities responded swiftly, launching search efforts right away. They started by reaching out to Ashley's friends and family, hoping to gather any information that might lead to her whereabouts. As the investigation unfolded, a single name kept surfacing: Tanner. The authorities quickly learned that Ashley had recently ended her relationship with Tanner, a breakup that had deeply affected him. Tanner had not been handling the separation well, and several people mentioned how distraught and unstable he seemed in the days leading up to Ashley's disappearance. One person even recalled seeing a cryptic and troubling message Tanner posted on Snapchat, suggesting he might be suicidal. Others noted that Tanner had never appeared so deeply depressed before, heightening concerns about his mental state. The situation took a darker turn when Tanner's father came forward with critical information. He reported that his .22 caliber revolver was missing from their locked gun safe. To make matters worse, Tanner knew where the key was kept. This revelation only deepened the urgency of the search. The sheriff's office quickly issued a "Be on the Lookout" (BOLO) alert for Tanner's truck, putting law enforcement officers across Colorado on high alert. By that point, search efforts were in full swing, and the hunt for Tanner intensified. Despite the best efforts of local authorities, the night passed without a break in the case. But at 8 a.m. the following morning, a breakthrough came. Tanner's location had been discovered. Law enforcement received a tip that Tanner's truck had been spotted on his late grandfather's property in Colburn, a remote town located about 5 hours away from where the search had initially started. This crucial information came from Tanner's grandmother, who had noticed the truck parked on the property and, feeling uneasy, called a neighbor to confirm it. Once the neighbor verified the truck's presence, she wasted no time notifying law enforcement, who now knew exactly where to focus their effort. Due to the considerable distance between the authorities and Tanner's location, assembling a team for the arrest wasn't going to be immediate. To ensure that Tanner wouldn't flee before they arrived, law enforcement requested a nearby wildlife ranger to monitor the property. The ranger, along with the neighbor who had alerted Tanner's grandmother, discreetly observed him, hoping he wouldn't attempt to escape. While Tanner didn't try to run, what unfolded was far more disturbing. From their vantage point, they watched as Tanner started disposing of items that raised grave suspicions. He tossed blood-soaked rags into a nearby field and then proceeded to move what looked like a large roll-up mat into a pile of wood behind the house. But the most horrifying sight came moments later. Tanner emerged from the house carrying a heavy blanket and placed it into the back seat of his truck. The blanket seemed cumbersome for him to handle, and from its folds, something was sticking out, what appeared to be a human arm. By this point, there was little doubt about the grim reality of what Tanner had done. The ranger and the neighbor immediately contacted authorities, and later that morning, the law enforcement teams, comprising sheriff's deputies, Colorado Bureau of Investigation agents, and other local officers, arrived at the property. Tanner was taken into custody without any resistance. When they opened the blanket in the backseat of his truck, the truth became unbearably clear. Inside was the lifeless body of Ashley Marie Doolittle. There were no life-saving measures that could have been taken. Ashley had been dead for some time. What had been a community's worst nightmare had now become an irreversible tragedy. Initially, Tanner attempted to give officers a false account of what had happened. He claimed that while they were sitting in his truck talking about their relationship, Ashley had lost control. According to him, she grabbed his father's revolver and aimed it at her own head in desperation. He insisted that he tried to wrestle the gun away from her, and in the struggle, it accidentally went off, shooting her. Then, in a chilling twist to his story, he claimed that because the first shot hadn't killed her, he fired 2 more shots to end her pain. The officers, however, weren't convinced. After hearing Tanner's version of events, one of the investigators bluntly told him they didn't believe his story. It wasn't long before Tanner confessed to the truth. The reality was far more cold-blooded than his initial fabrication. Since Ashley was no longer alive to tell her side of the story, Tanner's confession was the only version of events that could be recounted. Tanner recounted the events leading up to the tragedy during his interrogation. He admitted that after he and Ashley met at the Lon Hagler Reservoir, they drove west toward Carter Lake, the same place Tanner had gone earlier in the day to practice shooting. It was there, according to him, that they had another conversation about their relationship. Ashley reiterated that she didn't want to reconcile and told Tanner that while she might consider marrying him in the distant future, for now, she needed space to explore other relationships. After the conversation, they began the drive back to where Ashley had parked her car. That's when, as Tanner explained, things took a deadly turn. He claimed that as they drove, Ashley gave him a harsh glare, which he took as a sign of disdain. Enraged, Tanner reached into the back seat, pulled out the revolver he had borrowed from his father, and shot Ashley in the back of the head. Not once, but twice. Tanner stated that she did not die instantly, which is why he fired a 3rd shot to end her suffering, or so he claimed. After the horrific act, he attempted to clean her body and then drove to his late grandfather's remote property on the other side of the state, where he was ultimately arrested. After confessing to the crime, Tanner was held in the Mesa County Jail without bail. Meanwhile, the community Ashley had once been a shining light in was grappling with the immense grief of her loss. On June 17th, just over a week after her murder, hundreds gathered at St. John the Evangelist Catholic Parish in Loveland, Colorado, to honor Ashley's life. More than 700 people, including family, friends, and community members, filled the church to say their final goodbyes. Ashley had been more than just a typical teenager. She was an embodiment of hope, positivity, and determination for those around her. Despite the senseless act that ended her life, her mother, Marie Doolittle, made it clear that she wanted Ashley to be remembered for how she lived, not for the way she died. Marie wanted the world to see her daughter as the vibrant, ambitious 18-year-old who had achieved so much and was destined for even greater things. For many, 18 is a transitional and often confusing age, full of uncertainty about the future. Questions about passions, professions, and college weigh heavily on the minds of most. But Ashley was different. She already knew where she was headed. She had a plan, a vision for her future, and was making strides toward her goals with unwavering determination. Ashley had always been exceptional. While most teenagers struggle to find their footing and figure out their future, Ashley was different, focused, determined, and excelling at nearly everything she set her mind to. Her path seemed clear, as if she had her entire future carefully mapped out. Tragically, no one could have anticipated that her plans, full of promise and hope, would be abruptly cut short. Those who attended her funeral remembered her as the embodiment of joy and positivity. Described as fun-loving, goofy, and always smiling, Ashley had a personality that lit up every room she entered. She was a lady-in-waiting set to become the next rodeo queen, a title she would never get to claim. Instead, the upcoming rodeo season would now honor her memory. Her absence left a void in the community she had done so much for, and her funeral reflected that, with hundreds attending to pay their respects. But as the community mourned, events were also unfolding in the pursuit of justice. On the same day Ashley was laid to rest, the FBI announced that it would be assisting the Larimer County Sheriff's Office in the investigation, providing resources for evidence collection and recovery. Meanwhile, Tanner Flores, who had been held in the Mesa County Jail, was transferred to the Larimer County Jail, marking a new phase in the legal proceedings that would determine his fate. On June 20th, Tanner made his first court appearance, facing charges of first-degree murder and second-degree kidnapping. The kidnapping charge stemmed from the belief that Tanner had forcibly prevented Ashley from leaving his truck, trapping her in the moments leading up to her death. For the Doolittle family, the grief and agony of losing Ashley would be compounded by the lengthy legal process. They would have to wait more than a year and a half for the trial to begin, prolonging the heartache. By October 2017, the trial was finally underway and the courtroom was packed with friends and family from both sides. It was no longer a question of whether Tanner had killed Ashley. The facts were clear. The only issue to resolve was whether the murder was premeditated. The prosecution argued that Tanner had planned the killing well in advance, pointing out that he had visited the lake earlier that day not just to clear his mind, but to test the revolver and scout an isolated location to commit the act. One crucial detail the prosecution emphasized was the type of weapon Tanner used, a single-action revolver. This type of firearm requires the shooter to manually reset the firing mechanism between each shot, suggesting a deliberate and conscious act with every pull of the trigger. The prosecution believed this was evidence of intent, that each shot Tanner fired at Ashley was not in a moment of passion, but a calculated decision. The prosecution argued that the nature of Ashley being shot 3 times pointed to premeditation, not a crime of passion. They contended that each shot reflected a deliberate choice rather than an impulsive act. On the other hand, the defense maintained that the killing was unplanned, arguing that Tanner should face second-degree murder charges instead. Throughout the trial, Tanner took the stand and recounted the disturbing details of that tragic day. While he did not deny his actions, he insisted that the murder had not been premeditated. His testimony revealed new details not included in his original statement. He admitted to discarding both his and Ashley's phones after the murder, but before doing so, he had sent himself a text from Ashley's phone, attempting to fabricate an alibi. In the message, he pretended to be Ashley, stating that they hadn't seen each other that day and that she wasn't planning to meet him. This effort to cover his tracks came across as both desperate and poorly executed, yet what Tanner disclosed next shocked the courtroom. The night before his arrest, Tanner had broken into his deceased grandfather's property by smashing a sliding glass door. Once inside, he attempted to clean some of the blood from the crime, turned on the TV, and watched cartoons before falling asleep. Cartoons after committing such a heinous act. How could someone claim to love someone so deeply to the point of not wanting to see them with anyone else and then coldly take their life and sit down to watch TV afterward? This chilling question left many speechless and without answers. In the end, although the trial brought justice for Ashley, the outcome was a devastating blow for both families. Both had lost their children, one to death, the other to a lifetime in prison. The pain endured by both families was beyond measure. Though justice was served, there were no real winners in this tragic situation. 2 families were shattered by a senseless act of violence, and life for them would never be the same. The case also drew attention to a broader issue: breakup violence. In the United States, an estimated 1.5 million high school students experience physical abuse at the hands of a dating partner each year. Additionally, 1 in 3 teens aged 14 to 20 reports having been the victim of dating violence. This case served as a stark reminder of the dangers that young people face in unhealthy relationships and the lasting damage such violence can cause. Despite the alarming statistics, a staggering 81% of parents do not see teen dating violence as a significant concern. Marie and Jeff Doolittle were acutely aware of this disconnect, realizing that vital discussions surrounding this issue were lacking, not only in their community, but across the country and beyond. They understood that many young people, like their daughter Ashley, were facing similar dangers. In response, they established the Ashley Doolittle Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to raising awareness about teen dating violence and preserving their daughter's legacy. Through the foundation, they aim to continue Ashley's spirit of giving back to the community. The organization focuses on educating young people and their families about the signs of dating violence, providing support for victims, and implementing programs in schools to foster open conversations about healthy relationships. Marie has expressed that the foundation was created to honor Ashley's memory. She articulated their mission early on, stating, "We want some good to come out of this through the Ashley Doolittle Foundation. Our goal is to prevent other families from experiencing the pain we went through." The tragic story of Ashley Doolittle serves as a poignant reminder of the potential dangers lurking within teenage relationships. While not every relationship may end in violence, it is crucial to acknowledge that any form of abuse, be it physical, emotional, or verbal, is unacceptable. Ignoring these issues can have devastating repercussions, as seen in Ashley's case. On October 4th, 2017, Tanner was convicted of murder and second-degree kidnapping. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, along with an additional 32 years. This verdict not only brought some measure of justice, but also highlighted the urgent need for continued awareness and education regarding dating violence among teens.